You filled the feeder 3 days ago, maybe 4. The seeds are still there, untouched, settling into themselves in that way that only uneaten food does. You stand at the window with your coffee, scanning the empty branches, listening to the silence where you expected sound. Somewhere, blocks away, you can hear them, cardinals, chickadees. The harsh mechanical call of a blue jay. They're close enough that you know they're in the neighborhood. They're just not here, not in your yard, not at your feeder. You think maybe they haven't discovered it yet. You think maybe you just need to wait a little longer, be a little more patient. You think if you switch from sunflower seeds to suet, from platform to tube, from this tree to that post, eventually something will click and they'll come. Here's what you're not considering. They already know about your feeder. They've already made a decision about your yard, and the decision was no. There are 8 everyday things so ordinary you've stopped noticing them that are actively broadcasting a single message to every bird within 100 yards of your house. This place is not safe. Do not land here. Do not stay. Most of them you set up on purpose. You thought you were making your yard better. You were doing the opposite, and until you understand what birds are actually responding to, you will keep standing at that window, wondering why the feeder stays full and the branches stay empty. Let me show you what they see when they look at your yard. It is not what you see. It has never been what you see. There's a reason that cardinal isn't at your feeder, and it has nothing to do with the seeds you chose. 3 houses down, last April, another cardinal hit the reflection in your neighbor's sliding glass door at 17 miles per hour. It died on impact. The birds in your yard right now watching from the trees at the property line, remember? Here's what researchers at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology have documented. Birds don't see glass the way we do. They see the reflection of the sky, the continuation of the tree line, an open flight path where there is actually a solid barrier. And when a feeder is positioned 10 to 15 feet from a reflective window, the exact distance most people choose because it offers the best view from inside. It creates what ornithologists call a strike zone. A bird launches from the feeder, startled by movement by another bird, by the flicker of a shadow that might be a hawk. It accelerates toward what it perceives as safety, the trees reflected in your window, and impacts the glass at full speed. Up to 1 billion birds die this way every year in the United States alone, not from predators, not from starvation, from windows. Your neighbors lost a cardinal, but the information didn't stay local. Black-capped chickadees, those same small gray scouts that are first to every reliable feeder, have been shown in laboratory studies to retain spatial memory of danger sites for at least 28 days. They don't just remember that a window is dangerous, they remember which window, on which house, at which angle of approach, and they communicate that information to other members of their flock through alarm calls that encode location. Your yard doesn't have a reputation for being new or undiscovered. It has a reputation for being dangerous. And until you interrupt the reflection with decals, with screens, with parachute cords strung vertically every 4 inches, the birds that survived the last strike are not coming back. They've already warned everyone else. Look at your yard from above. Imagine you're a hawk, circling, scanning for movement in the open. What do you see? Lawn, mulch, maybe a bird feeder standing alone on a pole in the center of the grass like a flagpole in a parking lot. Clean, tidy, maintained. Now imagine you're a chickadee. For grams of hollow bone and feather, and every calorie you take from that feeder requires you to land in the open, entirely exposed, while the Cooper's hawk that has been hunting this neighborhood for 3 seasons watches from the oak tree you can't see. You don't land, you never land. Here's the thing most people misunderstand about birds and feeders. Birds are not afraid of predators in some vague, general way. They are performing continuous, real-time predation risk assessment, and the single strongest predictor of whether a bird will use a feeder is not the type of food, not the style of feeder, it's the availability of cover within 3 meters. A study published in the Condor, Ornithological Applications tracked feeder use across 128 residential properties in the Pacific Northwest. Feeders surrounded by dense shrubs, low-branching trees, or brush piles showed visit rates 340% higher than feeders in open lawn, even when the feeders contained identical food. The birds aren't avoiding your feeder because they don't like sunflower seeds. They're avoiding it because landing there feels like stepping into a sniper's crosshair. You thought you were cleaning up your yard, you were building a kill floor. Every time you cut back the overgrown shrubs near the feeder, every time you rake up the brush pile because it looks messy, every time you prune the lower branches for a cleaner sight line, you are telling the birds in the most explicit terms possible, this is not for you, this is for me to look at, and they believe you, I know. What you're thinking, my cat is older, declawed, wearing a bell, she's not a threat. Let me tell you what the birds think. The domestic cat Felis catus kills between 1.3 and 4 billion birds annually in the United States. That range is wide because the kills are impossible to track comprehensively, but even the conservative estimate makes cats the single largest human-associated source of bird mortality in North America. Not habitat loss, not pesticides, Cats. And here's the part that matters for your empty feeder. Birds don't wait to find out if your cat is an active hunter. The presence of a cat, any cat within sight of a feeding area, creates what ecologists call an landscape of fear. Researchers at the University of Georgia fitted outdoor cats with small cameras, the Kitty Cam project, and tracked their behavior over multiple seasons. What they found should end the debate. Cats don't just kill birds, they alter bird behavior within a 100-meter radius simply by being visible, even when the cat is doing nothing. Even when the cat is asleep. Because to a Carolina wren weighing 9 grams, a cat is not a pet. A cat is an apex predator with faster reflexes, better night vision, and retractable claws. The bell means nothing. Bells warn birds in flight. Birds at feeders are on the ground, focused on seeds, vulnerable. By the time the bell rings, it's over. You love your cat. I understand, but every hour that cat spends in the yard is an hour the bird spends somewhere else. You cannot have both. The birds have already chosen for you. They chose the yard where the cat isn't. You sprayed the lawn in May, just the standard treatment. Dandelions were taking over. The clover was spreading. The company told you it was safe for pets after it dried. They didn't mention the birds. Here's what happened after you sprayed. The insects in your lawn, the caterpillars, beetles, aphids, spiders began dying. Not all at once, gradually, over weeks, and the birds that used to forage in your grass, the robins and the sparrows and the warblers passing through during migration, stopped finding food. But it's worse than absence of food. A study from the University of Saskatchewan tracked white-crowned sparrows exposed to neonicotinoid pesticides, the most common class of insecticide used in North American lawn care. Birds exposed to even low, sublethal doses showed 6-17 loss in body mass within days, disorientation during migration, delays in departure of up to 3.5 days for a bird migrating from Central America to the Canadian boreal forest. A 3.5-day delay can mean arriving after the peak insect hatch, which means less food for chicks, which means lower survival rates. Your lawn treatment didn't just kill insects, it interrupted the timing of an entire hemisphere's breeding cycle, and the birds know. They can taste it. Literally, research shows birds avoid foraging in areas with detectable pesticide residue. Even when insects are present, you thought you were making your yard more beautiful. Made it toxic, and the birds are not coming back until the chemistry changes. You hung a decorative gazing ball near the garden. You installed a shiny new metal feeder because it looked elegant against the fence. You put up those spinning, reflective pinwheels to keep the squirrels away. Every single one is flashing a warning. Birds interpret sudden flashes of light the same way they interpret the bright eye shine of a predator or the glint off a hawk's talon in the sun as danger. Those reflective decorations you added for aesthetics are producing dozens of micro alerts every time the wind shifts or the sun angle changes. You're not decorating, you're setting off alarm bells. Researchers studying bird behavior around airports where bird strikes are a serious problem discovered that strobe lights and reflective tape reduce bird activity in targeted areas by up to 85%. It works because it triggers deep avoidance instincts. Your yard has become the avian equivalent of a construction zone with flashing lights running 24/7, and birds, operating on survival instincts honed over millions of years, are routing around it. You have a bird bath. I see it from here in the corner of the yard. Ceramic decorative filled once a week when you remember. The water is 3 inches deep. The sides are glazed and slippery. There's no stone for footing, no gradual slope, no texture to grip, and it's positioned 12 feet from the nearest cover in full sun where the water heats to bath temperature by noon. That's not a bird bath. That's a drowning hazard in a kill zone. Small songbirds need water depths between 0.5 and 2 inches maximum. They need rough surfaces to stand on. They need cover within 1 meter so they can bathe without becoming hawk bait while their feathers are waterlogged and flight is compromised. And they need moving water, not still, not stagnant, moving. A study in the Wilson Journal of Ornithology found that the sound of moving water dripping, trickling, bubbling increases bird visits by up to 400% compared to still water. Birds are attracted to the sound from hundreds of feet away. It signals freshness, safety, and hydration. Your decorative bird bath is doing none of this. It's a prop, and the birds know the difference. Open the feeder. Look at what's inside. If you see millet heavy cheap mix, you're looking at a recipe for house sparrows and European starlings, invasive species that aggressively displace native birds. If you see bread, crackers, or table scraps, you're offering food that provides calories but lacks the protein and fat native birds need to survive. And if that seed has been sitting there for more than 2 weeks, untouched, exposed to rain and humidity, it's not just stale, it's moldy, and mold produces aflatoxins, compounds that cause liver damage, immune suppression, and death in songbirds. You're not feeding birds, you're setting out poison in slow motion. The birds that visited once and got sick didn't come back, and they didn't die quietly in your yard where you'd notice. They died 3 territories over, in someone else's bushes. You never saw the consequence, but the birds that watched them get sick saw it, and they're not taking the risk. You put up a feeder 9 days ago. You've checked it every morning, still full, still untouched, so you move it, new location, new seed, different feeder style, and every time you do, you reset the clock. Birds are not gamblers. They don't experiment with new food sources unless they've watched them long enough to confirm. No other bird has died there, no predator is using it as bait. The food is consistently present. That observation period for a new feeder in a new yard. 14 to 21 days minimum, sometimes longer if your yard has any of the other 7 problems I just described. You're not being patient, you're being erratic, and erratic means dangerous. The birds are waiting for you to prove you're reliable, and you keep moving the finish line. Your yard right now is a grid of invisible warnings. The windows reflect death. The open lawn offers no cover. The cat patrols the perimeter. The grass is chemically altered. The decorations flash threats. The water is wrong. The food is suspect. And the whole setup keeps changing before trust can form. You're not failing to attract birds. You've built a system that repels them. But here's what matters. None of this is permanent. The birds haven't left forever. They've left until conditions change, and conditions can change as soon as tomorrow morning. Before you buy different seed, before you move the feeder again, do this one thing. Add cover, 1 native shrub within 6 feet of your feeder, 1 brush pile made of branches you were going to throw away, 1 small evergreen in a pot if that's all your space allows. Give them 1 place to land before the feeder, 1 place to retreat. 2 after, 1 answer to the question every bird asks before committing. If a hawk appears, where do I go? The moment that question has an answer, everything shifts. I want to know something. In the comments, tell me, what's between your feeder and the nearest cover? Measure it. Tell me the distance and what fills that space. That number will tell you more about why your yard is empty than anything else. Tomorrow morning, don't check the feeder. Check the edges of your yard. Look at the property line, the fence, the far trees. That's where the birds are, watching, waiting for one reason to come. Closer, you're about to give them that reason.